mastering the basics of Microsoft 365. Now, for those of you that already use Microsoft 365, you're probably quite well aware of the functionality within. And for anyone that hasn't been introduced to it previously, it is a fantastic service from Microsoft. It's an umbrella service. It has a number of functions within the Microsoft 365 umbrella. And we're going to be focusing on the core ones this morning that we have seen charities utilise and get most benefit from. But there are a host of other functions as well. So please do feel free to, again, to reach out to us or to ask any questions in the Q&A. And if we can at the end, we'll certainly go through them. So moving on from my slideshow here, and I do have really detailed notes on what I'd like to present to you today, but I'm going to try my best not to read from my notes because I've been told I sound like a robot when I do so. So I'm going to try and keep things as simple and as human as possible for you today. I'll just share my screen here with you. And the very first thing actually I wanted to show was just accessing Microsoft 365 through the web portal, because there are a couple of means, a couple of ways in which you can interface with Microsoft 365. Primarily through the installed applications within Windows, so your Word, Excel, PowerPoint, you might have OneDrive installed as well. But the simplest way, and the way in which most people will access it, especially initially, will be by visiting the Microsoft portal. So by visiting the link portal.office.com, you'll be presented with the Microsoft 365 sign-in. Now, you can log in here. I won't do so on this because I'm already logged in, but you'll see here it'll ask you for your email address. On the next screen, it will ask you for your password, and then provided you've got multi-factor authentication set up, which hopefully you do, and for those of you that don't, I'll touch on that shortly. It might ask you for a prompt from your mobile phone as well. So once you're logged into Microsoft 365, you'll be presented with this dashboard here. There are various themes on this dashboard, so I think my one is in a darker mode, but you can change the themes here by clicking this little setting button at the top right, and you might choose to have it in a different color. From the Microsoft 365 dashboard, the very first thing you'll note is you're given a list of recommended documents and parts of the system that your colleagues have been using recently or have shared with you, and then some quick access items down below. We'll be focusing mainly on this button here at the top left hand corner, which gives you the menu, and you can see all of the applications within. But before I deeper dive these applications, I'd like to just show you a little bit about the security settings on Microsoft 365 and why it's so paramount that you have multi-factor authentication switched on. In short, Microsoft have provided a multi-factor authentication system because passwords are just not secure enough anymore. If you're protecting your accounts with just a password, these things can be breached, and it's always better to have that additional level of security in place. So by clicking your picture up here, or it might just be your initials if you haven't set up a picture, you can then go to View Account here. And then under the View Account tab, you have a security info box. You'll be able to click on the security info, and you'll be given the list of devices that you have set up for multi-factor authentication, or more to the point, if you haven't set up multi-factor authentication, you can click the add sign-in method here. It will then ask you what method to choose, and there are sometimes multiple methods available to you. In our organization, we've restricted this to the Authenticator app. The reason being is that Microsoft are actually going to take away some of the other authentication methods because they're just not as secure as the Authenticator app. So I would always recommend choosing the Authenticator app. It will then ask you to install an app on your phone, be it an iPhone or an Android phone. It's called Microsoft Authenticator. It's available in the App Store or in the Google Store. And it's really easy to use. It uses minimal data and minimal storage. So for those of you that have users that have their own mobile phones that don't belong to organization, they shouldn't have any issues installing this. And the beauty of this application is even if you don't have any telephone signal or internet connectivity, it will generate a code for you, which you can then use to access Microsoft 365. So it's a fail-safe. The other options, such as text message, are not as reliable and certainly not as bulletproof as we've found over the last year or two. There has been issues with hackers breaching or cloning SIM cards and telephone numbers as well. So always choose the Authenticator app. You'll click on Add after you've chosen it, and you'll follow the on-screen instructions. The very first thing it will ask you to do, as I say, is download the application. And then once you've got it, you can then say next, and it will then prompt you, it's next again on this screen, to scan the QR code. So you'll open up the Microsoft Authenticator app on your phone, and you'll click add account, and then you'll scan this QR code and it will automatically set itself up. Now, the beauty of the Microsoft Authenticator and the multi-factor authentication within Microsoft 365 is that it's quite intelligent. It won't prompt you for multi-factor authentication on a daily basis. It will figure out when you're acting suspicious. So if you're using a new device or a new location, it will prompt you for multi-factor authentication. What we found is, for those of you that have an IT support provider in place, you may well have multi-factor authentication set up with a slightly more secure system, something called security defaults and legacy multi-factor authentication. Now, for all of our customers, these are services that we push out. So once all the users have set up multi-factor authentication within the organization, we can set it as default with security defaults, which means that any new users that join the organization are asked to set up multi-factor authentication from the outset. It just means that you have less work to do when you're adding users to the system later on down the line. And with legacy security defaults, what that effectively does is it turns off the artificial intelligence to a degree, and it prompts people more frequently for multi-factor authentication, only because we've seen a few issues with the artificial intelligence. I mean, for example, we had somebody who had an account breached from halfway across the world, and when we spoke to Microsoft and asked them why it didn't prompt them for multi-factor authentication, Microsoft said, well, actually, it's well within reason that they could have got on a plane, traveled to that distance in that time, and then logged in from that site. So we always switch on security defaults and legacy multi-factor authentication, two things that you should definitely get switched on if they're not already. So I won't go through it too much more about the sign-in system here. Once you've added your multi-factor authentication here, it will be visible as mine is here, and you can also remove it if you have a new phone that you've been provided, and you can, quite importantly, click the sign out from everywhere button here at the bottom, which will actually sign you out from your instances of Microsoft 365 or whichever device you're logged into. So if you ever fear that you've left something logged in or someone has access to something they shouldn't have, you can click the sign out button here and it will sign everybody out. So that was just a quick introduction to multi-factor authentication. I really can't stress how important that is of the utmost importance that people get that set up. Back to the Microsoft 365 dashboard here. The other part I wanted to point out on the dashboard is that it often gets overseen is the install apps button here at the top right hand corner. Now, provided your users have Microsoft 365 Business Standard or Business Premium licenses are the most common, they're going to be able to install Microsoft Office on their device. You'll actually get up to 5 instances of Microsoft Office per user, so they can install Office on their desktop PC, on their laptop, on their tablet, even on their home device if the organization permits to do so, and if it meets obviously the security requirements. So do bear that in mind. And for the purpose of today's demonstration, we'll be using the online apps mostly, but by clicking this button and following the steps, it's going to install Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, and all of those applications on my computer locally. Now, it's worth also mentioning at this stage, for those of you that are using BYOD or you have staff members that are bringing their own devices to the organisation, you should restrict usage to the portal only, and you will do that through your own policies internally, and you'll make sure that users are only interfacing with your email and with your shared data through the browser. The reason being that you don't control their local device, so you don't know what antivirus they've got, whether they've updated it, whether there's already a breach on it, whereas if they restrict usage through the browser, you won't have to worry so much about any of those aspects. A bit like when you do online banking, the bank isn't really looking too much at the device you're using, it's just making sure that you're doing it through the secure portal through the web browser. Okie dokie, so moving on from that, one of the first applications I'm going to share with you today is going to be, bear with me a second, I said I wouldn't use my notes, but I'm going to, just to make sure I get things in the right order. We're going to take a look at the applications Oh, we've done installing. There we go. The popular apps Outlook for web access. I knew that was where we are going to go. Right. So clicking the menu here at the top left-hand corner shows you all of the various apps that are available within Microsoft 365. You can click the Explore All button here, and it will take you to a screen that shows you all of the applications that are available through your licensing or that your administrator has provisioned for you. There are a huge number of applications that are available through Microsoft 365, and not everybody is going to use every single one of them, but there are a core set of them of applications which are really useful, and then we find most organizations that we support use. So by clicking the menu up here, we're going to click Outlook, and that's going to take us to our Outlook web access. Do bear with me because I do have a window open here already. I'm just going to pop it up. Reason being, I didn't want to share all of my email with yourself, so I've got the Outlook web access open here on a webinar folder, and you can see it's very similar to having Outlook installed on your desktop. And Microsoft are actually in the process of unifying the interfaces so that the web site version of Outlook looks identical to the version that's installed on your computer. The beauty of the website version is that it's cross-platform. You can open it up on any device that has internet access. There's no installation required, so you don't need to install or set anything up. It's really simple, extremely reliable because it's maintained by Microsoft, so there's next to no downtime. We find that the search functionality works slightly better on the web access version of Outlook because it's all live, and the searching takes place on the Microsoft servers rather than on your computer locally. It's fantastic for bring your own device. As I said previously, it means that you're working through the browser, not downloading any of this data locally. And they've also simplified the way in which you can view additional mailboxes. So you can see here, I've got access to a few other mailboxes, and they will appear on the left-hand side. So you can have multiple mailboxes through web access. Previously, you would have to open them up in separate windows. I have also got full access to the calendar here on the left-hand side, and can also access my to-dos, which is something that my colleague Oliver is going to cover in a bit more detail shortly. So Outlook for web access is fantastic. It's very similar to, as I say, to Outlook on desktop. You have the functionality here to create new emails. You can add your signatures automatically. You've got all of the standard stuff you would expect within an email solution. And it's, as I say, extremely resilient and robust. So if anybody would like further information on transitioning to Microsoft 365 and Outlook, or if you're already using it and would like some assistance setting up some of the specific functions within, do please reach out to us and schedule a consultation, and we'll be happy to help. So moving on from Outlook, I also want to show you Microsoft OneDrive, which is also underneath the apps menu here. Now, Microsoft 365 has a few separate locations in which you can store data as an organization. OneDrive is really designed to be your personal file storage space. Once you open the OneDrive link here, you'll be presented with your OneDrive file structure. And on the left-hand side, there are also links to our organization's SharePoint. But the idea being, this is my personal file storage space. So if you have set up Microsoft 365 using some of the more advanced functionality, such as Intune and Azure Active Directory, you can actually have all of your devices back up the user profile to OneDrive. Now, what that means is that each user's desktop, My Documents, favorites, all of that stuff, My Pictures, is all backed up to OneDrive. And in practice, that means if my laptop or my computer gives up the ghost today, I can pick up any other device, and anything I've been working on my desktop is already there. So you've got that peace of mind of knowing that the user profile doesn't live just solely on that device. It lives in OneDrive and on the cloud. So we'd always recommend setting up that functionality within Intune as well. But very similar to SharePoint, which I'll show you shortly, OneDrive also provides functionality such as sharing. So I can collaborate with colleagues by clicking the little document menu button here. I've got a choice to copy a link, and I can email that to my colleagues, or I can share it directly from here, and it pops up in a box asking me who I would like to share it with. And I can also have some more advanced options here surrounding the share. I can stop people downloading the items I'm sharing, and I can even add limits to how long they can have access to it, and whether they can edit or just view it as well. So this is similar to SharePoint, and I'll show you a bit more of that on SharePoint shortly. The idea being, again, that I am sharing these documents from my personal storage space. If I left the organization tomorrow, they would definitely be able to request access to my OneDrive, but it's a bit of a manual process. They have to ask for access. They'll then have to go in and retrieve any data before they close off my accounts. So that's why we don't really recommend storing anything that belongs to the organization within OneDrive. That really should be stored within SharePoint. The idea being OneDrive belongs to each individual user, SharePoint belongs to the whole organization. And SharePoint has a few other levels to it, which I'll demonstrate shortly, and my colleague Chris later today will go through in a lot more detail. But hopefully you can see here, I also have the options for version history. I can go back through and click to any point this document was edited in the past. A bad example that I've used here because it's only got one version. But again, I can show you that a bit more detail in SharePoint as well. There's also options here to automate. You can create rules. Please do feel free to experiment with those. You might be able to create documents that automatically or share them automatically, remove shares, all of that good stuff through the rules. You can favorite your documents here as well, but as I say, it's quite basic. It's a file repository, and you also have the option to access SharePoint through your local, OneDrive through your local device. So I'll open up my File Explorer here, and you'll see that I've got my OneDrive button here on the left-hand side, and then I've got my files exactly the same as they are on my OneDrive in the cloud. And the beauty of this is it's also showing me here in this symbol that this file belongs in the cloud. It lives in the cloud. Now, if I double click this file, it will grab that file and open it on my computer. And you can see that symbol's turned to a tick, which means actually that file is now stored locally. With this particular tick, it's got a clear background here. What that means is if I don't use this file for an extended period of time, it will send the file automatically back up to the cloud, therefore freeing some space on my computer. Please don't worry that if it is stored locally here with this tick, any changes I make are automatically synchronized with the cloud still. So it's not that your colleagues can't work on it because you have it locally on your device. And also, if you are going to be without an internet connection for a prolonged period of time, you can click right-hand mouse button on a file or folder in OneDrive or SharePoint, and you can say keep offline. Where has that gone? Bear with me a second. Always keep on this device. There we go. And that will turn this into a green tick. It'll be a solid tick here shortly, and that means that this file is kept locally on my device, and I don't need an internet connection to access it. Let's say I'm on a long train journey. I can go ahead and edit the data in this document, and then as soon as I have an internet connection again, it will sync back up to the cloud. If for some reason my colleagues have been in and edited that document in the meantime whilst I was offline working on it, OneDrive will flag that there are two versions of the document, and it will ask you to either merge the two together or to save them separately, and then perhaps you can do some housekeeping and delete the one that's not accurate. But OneDrive is very good at that. Please do keep an eye on the OneDrive symbol next to your clock in Windows or on a Mac device at the top right-hand corner, also next to your clock. That OneDrive symbol will show you the status of OneDrive, and if there's ever a red X over it, you'll know that there's an issue. You can click on it and see what that issue might be. Okie dokie, so moving on from OneDrive, I'm going to also show you SharePoint. So again, through the menu item up here, we're going to go back into SharePoint this time. And the beauty of SharePoint is not only is it a file storage repository, but it can also be used as an intranet system. So you can have custom pages for different departments where you can have various functions or bits of useful information for various teams within the organization. So for example, in this instance, this is our SharePoint, and I'm going to go to our demo SharePoint site. And you'll see it takes me to a team site. Now, my colleague Chris is going to go through some of the functions of this team site in a lot more detail later today. But what I'd like to focus on is the file sharing. So you'll see here we have various departments set out. And let's say, for example, I want to go into my finance department. It will take me to the finance team site or page. And you'll see here, these are the various elements that the organization has put together for the finance team. Now I'm going to click here on documents, and that's going to take me into the documents area of SharePoint. Now, you'll see here, we've got some demo folders set out here. What I'm going to do initially is just show you, if I'm using these folders frequently, I don't have to go in through the web portal. If I've got a device that belongs to the organization and they're happy for me to work on these files and folders locally as if they were on my device, what I need to do is click this sync button up here. Now this sync button then pops up with a little notification saying it's going to synchronize with OneDrive, and then you press OK, and it actually goes ahead. It's doing it on my other screen. It's synchronizing with OneDrive, and I'll show you here now on my left hand side in my file explorer. On the left hand side I have Click Limited, and you can see here there is a demo finance folder, and these are all of the files and folders that you can see in SharePoint exactly as they are in the browser are now visible locally on my device. The idea being, if you're frequently using folders, as you can see I use all of these folders here very frequently, you can make them as if they are locally on your device. You don't have to go through the web portal every time, and you have the same sorts of functions here. So for example, if I was to go, I think finance folder 1 does have a couple of documents in it. I can go right hand mouse button here, I can share it with my colleagues, I can copy link, all of that good stuff from here as well. And more to the point, if you wanted to then see what this version looks like online, just to confirm that it is in sync, you can also click view online and it will open the document up for you in the cloud-based version as well. So just a very quick look at SharePoint. What I'd like to do here is demonstrate what the collaboration looks like on documents in SharePoint and OneDrive, because part of the beauty of working on these systems is you can collaborate with multiple colleagues at the same time. You also have really great version history. So what I'm going to do for this demonstration is I'm going to go back to my OneDrive and have a look at this finance file that we've got here, this finance Excel spreadsheet. I'll click in it. You'll be able to see where we've done some testing before, because it's just full of some random text here. Now, whilst I've got this open, I can click around it. This is open in the browser, but let's say actually I wanted to use this on the full version of Excel on my computer. I believe I can click on editing here, and I can click open in desktop app, and that's going to open it in the installed version of Outlook. So I'll do that here, and you'll see that now opens up this document in the installed version of Outlook on my computer, exactly the same document. So further to that, what I'll do is I'll go back to the web version here, and I'm going to say resume editing here. And what I'd like to demonstrate is how to invite someone else to the document. So if I click on the share button up here and click on share, it's then going to pop up with the window similar to what you saw previously, and I'm going to invite my colleague Oliver Bradshaw to this document. Oliver's going to be demonstrating some more functions of 365 shortly, but he's going to help me out with this test initially. I'll just pop in a little test description there and click send. So that's going to send the link to Oliver, and then you'll see that he will receive that link and open the link and join me in this document shortly, and you're going to be able to see how the collaboration works. So do bear with us while Oliver joins. Whilst he's actually joining us, I'll also show you that at the top left hand corner here you've got the option here to change the document name and the location of the document, but you also have the version history available within. This is the same for the installed version of Excel or Outlook as well. So I can click on version history here, and again it shows me previous versions of the document. I can see the changes, or I can go back to any version of that document in the past. Do bear with me a second, because Oliver hasn't joined me yet. I'll just make sure that he has got the link.
I do have the link. It's just loading up now as we speak.
Fantastic. Cheers. Wait me a second. So actually, when he does join, you'll see that here you go. His initials and his picture has appeared up here in the top right-hand corner, and you can see the very cell that he is typing in at that point in time. So we can both work on a spreadsheet together. Again, if I actually say I don't like this online version of Excel, all I've got to do is click on the editing button and open in desktop app, and then open Excel, and you'll see that it does that again for me. And this time Oliver's still working on the document with me. Give that a second. Brilliant. There we go. Enable content, and you'll see there's Oliver there, and he's still working in the document in exactly the same way. So this is not just for Excel. It works on Word, it works on PowerPoint, it works on any of the Microsoft applications. So that was just a really quick look at collaboration and on version history as well. And I think that brings me to a bit of a close of what I'd like to demonstrate here. Just to quickly show you on the SharePoint side of things, the version history as well is exactly the same. You've got the same menu as you do in OneDrive, and you can bring up, this document here that you can see has multiple versions, and I can go back to any point in the past. I can click on one of those and it will open it up in Excel, and I can compare or save over the one that I'm working on. So the benefits of using SharePoint are really plentiful. There's loads. It's a fantastic collaboration tool. It's a brilliant resource from Microsoft. There's fantastic pricing for charities. You will all receive 10 free business premium licenses as a charity, and up to 300 business basic licenses for email only use, and the rest of the licensing is extremely discounted. And then if you do go further into the system of Microsoft 365 and then deploy things like Intune and Azure Active Directory, all of this sits within that umbrella fantastically. So you can imagine the scenario where your user turns on their device, logs in with their email address and password, their files and folders are automatically available to them, their Outlook is automatically available to them, and they can pick up any device within the organization and log in and do exactly the same. That's how we set up the majority of our customers here. So moving on from that, my colleague Oliver is going to demonstrate some of the other applications within Microsoft 365. I will leave him to present those to you, but please do feel free to add any questions you have to the Q&A, and at the end of this we'll see if we can answer some more for you. Thank you very much. Over to you, Oliver.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Pav. I think that was some really good stuff there. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to share my screen and just wait a second for that to load up for you all. So again, we're going to be working through the web applications, just like Pav was saying. Obviously, you understand a lot of your users may be using their personal devices, so obviously you're going to be encouraging them to work through the web. Also, really good for trustees, because obviously they may not need all of the apps installed on your machines. So to start with, I'm going to go through something called Bookings, which if you can't see it on here, you can explore all apps and it gives you a list of everything your license enables you to use. So we'll give that a second to load up, and then go through all apps. So where is it on here? I think it's hiding away. Here we go. So what Bookings allows you to do is use your Outlook calendar to book in time. So you may want your internal staff to be able to book in one-to-one meetings with you. It may be something that you want to send to shareholders. What I'm going to do, I'm going to show you how we set up a booking page, and then it kind of explains itself what the benefits of that are. So if I actually go to create a new booking page, that'd be a lot better. And you can copy one of the ones you've already got. So if you've got one that's working well for you, you can copy it, or we can set up one from scratch. So what we're going to do in this instance, we're going to call one test. Obviously, you can add your charity or organizational logo. Obviously, business times, you can select what sort of business you are. So for us, we're going to do IT support, and then can invite staff. So let's say we've got a couple of members of staff who you want to be able to have booked in. So in this instance, maybe I'm going to add Pav if it will let me. There we go. So I can add myself and Pav. I can add him as an administrator so he can edit the booking page, or I can leave him as a team member. So what we'll do, we'll add him as a team member for now and then move on. And then here, so this is what the user is going to see. So if you send them a booking link, they'll be able to book in time with you. So what you might want to do, you may want to rename it. So in this instance, let's call it test. So we want people to be able to book in 30-minute slots. Maybe we only want it to be on a Monday or a Thursday. So we can unselect the days you don't want. And then what this will do, you can update the service, and then you can see a little Teams icon here. So this is going to be a Teams meeting. So it's going to book in a Teams. Obviously, you can change that if you don't want a Teams meeting, but in this instance, we're going to, what it will do, it will add it to my calendar, add it to whoever books in the time with me's calendar, and then we can join the meeting from there. So we'll do next. Then here, if it's internal, you're going to want to set it up for your organization, or you may want to have external people booking in. So that can be very useful as well. So this will take a second to set up a bookings page. So while that's going, that will take a minute. Okay, here we go. So now you can see, so I can either share this link. So if I click on that, it'll let me copy it. I can then send this. So then what it's going to look like for the end user, if we open this up. So this is what I was saying about we can add myself or Pav. So we can add, let's try and book in a meeting with myself. So we're booking in a 30-minute slot. Maybe we want to book it in for next Thursday at 9 a.m. And then it will ask your details, book it in, and it will go into both of our calendars. So it can be very useful, obviously, if you're really busy and staff need to book in meetings or anything like that. So that's how you can use bookings. You can go into the actual So it'll appear here on your bookings pages. So you can go into it, set up, let's say, oh, okay, I need a new service. I want people to be able to book in for an hour. So you can set up a booking page for an hour. So I'm just going to show you this, and then when we go through to the actual page, it will show you. So test 2. So we set up a test 2 now, so which is an hour long. So if we go back to the bookings page and refresh, you can see it will let us book in for an hour, 30 minutes. And then obviously looking at your Outlook calendar, it will book in that relevant time. I'm conscious of time, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to touch base on a couple of things that a lot of my sort of not-for-profits and charities have been using, and it's been working really well for them. Obviously, if you've got any questions, please put them in the chat, because I want to leave some time at the end just in case anyone does. So next, I'm going to move on to something called Planner, which if you've got a lot of projects you need to book in, it can be very useful as well. So let's create a new plan in this instance. You can start with a blank project management. So I know a lot of the time you may want to track where your funding's at. So let's create one called funding in this instance. You can add it to an existing group. So in this instance, we won't, because what I'm going to do, I'm just going to set it up for myself, and then we can add people into it. So we'll create a bookings page, a planner page. That'll take a second. Then you can see here, you can set up different goals. So you may decide, okay, we need a planning one. We don't need this, so you can delete it out. Then it allows you to sort of move tasks through stages. So you might say, okay, so now we know. So you can go into these. Let's create one that says reaching out. So you might say, okay, I need to assign a member of the team. So he's not a member at the moment. So what it's going to do, if I add him, it's going to send him an invite. And then you can see that Pav is set on this task. I can set a date so he knows on his side. So this is sort of where your whole team can work from. So let's create that, add task. And then you can see Pav needs to reach out to someone today. And then once he's done that, he can tick it off. It's going to move into, he's completed it. So you can see down here, I've created it. And then maybe you want to move it into another stage then called planning. And it sort of allows your whole team to see what you're doing, make sure everyone's got tasks assigned for the day. I know with a lot of hybrid working, it is very useful for a lot of my organizations where they say, okay, well, we'll assign this member of the team to this, and then someone else does something else, and then you may have it go to review for this section. So you can edit quite a lot of it. Obviously, it's fairly self-explanatory here in terms of moving through the stages, and then once it's finished, you can move it to a last one, but keep it on there, and then so it goes into a completed task. And if you ever want to look back at it, you can open it up, sort of go through, attach any files if you need to. So that is a very, very strong feature within Microsoft. I believe it requires business standard or business premium, which obviously Pav's touched base on as something that you should be able to get heavily discounted. If not, you get the 10 business premiums for free. So a lot of these features, if you're not sure if you have them, please do reach out to us, and we can sort of let you know how to get there. So that's Planner. So that's more for your whole team to plan their days. What you can do is a thing called to-dos. So there'll be another one here for to-dos. So this is more sort of your day-to-day tasks. So if you want to make a note of, okay, I need to reach out to someone today, you can set tasks on here. So let's say we need to add a task. I need to call Pav. I can add a task on here. It will let me add it. And then I know that I need to call Pav, and I can flag that as important if I need to. So this, obviously, then once I've called Pav, I complete it, and it goes into my day as obviously. So I've now called Pav. But what I can do, you can add it to per day, you can add it to long term. So let's say I've got charity IT day here. I need to prepare. So I've done my most important task, and then it sort of goes through a whole system there. So that's sort of, it's very similar to Planner, but it's more one person's to-dos, which again, you can share, you can add people to it and assign tasks. But in this instance, I think it's better used as sort of your day-to-day, whereas the Planner's a lot better for the team. And then conscious of time, I'm just going to move on to one last thing, which is OneNote. So let's say I'm sitting in on meetings. This is a very strong, I think it's better on the app personally. So let me just open that for you. And then what I can do, I can add sections. So for today, we're going to have a charity IT day. And then we can add some pages. So let's say I want to take notes while we're on this meeting. I can add them in here. Flow test. We can name that page, and then I can always come back to it if I need to. So some productivity features there. So a lot of them is you might want to use them, see if it works for you. Obviously, you may use all of them. You might only use one or two. I like using OneNote. I know a lot of the members of the team like using to-dos and the planner. So it's kind of up to you there, but I would recommend giving them all a go, sort of looking at all of the features and how they can work within your charity.